And I haven't looked at any of them, so I'm excited to see them. So I'm not going to share my screen yet. Well, I'll share it so you guys can see what I'm doing, make sure you're connected. What am I talking about? And I'm going to go to our discussion and find that. So if I scroll down, I should see everybody's Scratch project. And what I kind of want to do is, I think that instead of scrolling down through the discussion to look at them, we'll just move around the classroom, and that'll make it easier for us to make sure that we're getting a chance to see everybody's that's here today, because I don't want to spend a bunch of time looking at one of somebody who's not here, although they might be very, very worthy. So if you can go directly to Scratch and log in to bring up your project, that's great. If you need to find the link, that's fine too. Just find it in the discussion and right click on it, and you can choose go to that URL if you're using Chrome. Okay, so let's see, where shall we start? I'm going to stop this share. Let's see what part of the room we want to stop in. I don't want to really pick on anybody, but let's pick on the back row, right? They're always hiding out in the back. Haley, how about you? Will you show us yours? Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is find your Zoom toolbar and share your screen. Now, I'm going to move this, hopefully, so you guys can see it on the big screen. Also, come on, you silly thing. View options. Okay. So now, here's Haley's. I know sometimes it's fun to go to them yourself and play, but I'd like for you first to kind of watch her present it, and then you can go through later and bring them up and play them, because we want to kind of give her our full attention while we're looking at it so she can show us what it does. Okay, show us what it does. Can you make it full screen? Because it's beautiful. Ooh, cute. Oh, yeah. That's one problem with our remoting in, is that we can't hear the sound as well, or at all. I think it was good, though. Did you guys get a good impact? Give her a hand. I think that was awesome. Thank you for going first. Very cute. I like the way it had the scene transitions and everything. Okay, so now you go ahead and release that sharing, and we're going to move on down and ask Alan to take over. Do you have something to show us, sir? I knew you did. Let's see what we got. Is it letting you share? Do you see it? Okay, good. I was afraid I would have to move it back over, but it looks like it's going to stay in that area, so yay. I'm going to try to put in some grades while you guys are showing them. Okay, he's got it. You ready? All right, let's see what you got.
So mine's just a stupid little time waster. He runs around the circle and he says, "Catch me if you can," and you try to click on stop, and he says, "Catch me quicker than that." Just try to keep looking. Nothing happens, so it's just a little stupid thing to do. And if you have your volume up whenever you press the space bar,
You can hear him. You're screaming from there. It's like a virus, huh? Just click on it. Okay, give him a hand. He's doing some amazing things there. All right, sir, release that share and let's move on and see what Aaron's got. You know, I should have you be introducing yourselves. Let's do that. Back up, everybody turn around and look over in the corner over there. That was Haley that went first. That was very nice of her, right, to go first. Thank you, Haley. And then Alan, sorry, I'm saying his name wrong because I said Haley. Alan showed us the virusy cat. Okay, and now who do we have?
Aaron.
Aaron, hi Aaron. Show us what you've got.
Mine is also a time waster.
Hmm.
And the same idea. When you press go, he starts just going around the screen, and that's choppy. He just goes randomly around the screen, and he goes a bit crazy. Your whole goal is to touch him and click on him. And feeling lazy, I downloaded a auto clicker, so I'm just gonna activate that. And then he'll say, "Congratulations, you did it." It's more annoying because before you click him, he's screaming, but we don't have sound, so.
Can we hear yours? We could hear Alan's if you turn it up a
But
little.
if you click him, he will stop screaming.
Ah.
And there's a hidden Easter egg that I put in. If you click him again, he'll stop moving completely and he'll go to the space. Yeah.
Cute.
That's all one.
Give him a hand. Yay. Whenever you guys join the meeting, can you join with audio?
Yeah.
And make sure you've connected your computer audio, and then we should be able to hear, I think. But I'm not sure because we have all these different devices going on, and we don't have that great of speakers up here on this big screen anyways, so. Okay. All right. Then we're going to jump across and look at Brittany's. Brittany, introduce yourself to everybody.
There is no sound.
That's awesome. Give her a hand. Yay. And let's see. Oh, Aaron is there beside you. Hello. Wave at everybody. Tell them who you are.
Hello, I'm Aaron. Mine's just a really simple, quick. And then
Love it. Give him a hand. Yay. Let's see, I'm missing a person or two over there, so I think we're to you, Adam.
all right.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
And you are?
Pete.
Pete? Well, I'll write that down then, because that's not what the thing says. I'm glad I asked. I wish they would let you put nicknames on Canvas, but they don't. Kind of a standoff there, huh? Okay, thank you. So let's see, next. Simeon? Full name. I just can't say it very well. And introduce yourself to everybody.
I am Simeon.
He says it better.
So this is first Chase game.
What happens if the room hits me?
If you hit the room,
Mm-hmm.
it makes a little noise and you lose a point.
Okay, cool.
And it's the same thing with dragonflies. This is level 3 out of 4. I don't know if they want to go away through the 4th level.
I want to see it. Very cool. Nice.
There we go.
I like. Very good. Okay, Gary. Glad we saw that. All right. Thanks, got it.
My name is Nick, and this is my rating.
And play it again. Interesting. Very good. Okay, so let's see. So you're Nick. What's your last name, Nick? Cobb? What is it? Okay, so I had you next. I just had you guys switched. I just wanted to make sure I hadn't counted somebody absent. Okay, no problem. Nice. Okay, yeah, I have you guys switched.
Yeah.
All righty.
Created something similar to his, but this is my party. It's just that. It goes on for a little while. Yeah.
Party in the house. Okay. Let me make sure I've got these in here, right? All right. It's really cool because whenever you see small things like that, those can be really important to you, even just to convey a concept or something to somebody else. So we can create a really small little storyboard using something like Scratch to say, well, this is what I'm envisioning. So We can always use tools like that for conveying. All right, we're jumping way over here. Introduce yourself.
I'm Madison. I made a little racing game. You hit the flag, it starts the arrow moving, and then you have to use the right arrow key to try and get scratched to the end before the rabbit. And then as the levels go on, it does wackier things, try and get to the exit. And then once you get back to the very last stage, it just sits off.
That is really neat. I don't think I've ever seen one like that. I like it. Very nice. Canvas is nicely displaying you guys' names, first name first in the grade book, so I can't find you because I'm used to last name first. All right. Vanessa.
I didn't really manage to get much of one done. I worked on weekends.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. We'll just skip you. And let's see. Make sure I've got the right person. What's your name?
John.
Okay. I thought so. I just didn't make sure that I had you in the right place.
I'm John, and my game is called Zombie Blaster 1000. And so you use the WASD keys to move in the spacebar to, well, this is pretty laggy, but
Pretty laggy with the
yeah.
Zoom thing. Yeah. Get laggy fast.
Yeah, there's no way to win. It's just about getting as many points as possible. And I got touched at the end there, so it stopped the game.
Very nice. Love it. Okay, then. Simona.
Hey, I'm Simona. Mine's just a dumb animation about an octopus lost in space. He just floats around and he yells. And he's like, ah, I'm still lost in space. And I set it to random glide across the screen. So it looks like he's floating.
So doing some randomization, that's
Yeah,
good.
that's all. That's all it is. I showed it to my
Awesome.
nephew and he cannot stop laughing at it.
Instead of baby sharks, like dumb octopus. Huh? All right, so tell everybody who you are.
So my name's Chad, and I made a frog that walks across the screen. Then you just go back. The little spin.
I don't know if you guys can hear him from back in the back, but he's got some really interesting frog noises. Sounds good. All right. Last couple here. Share the screen. Perfect. Okay.
My name is Aaron, and this is my soccer game that I created.
Great.
To move the character, I have to press the right arrow key and the left key to move. And also, it kicks the ball. You can score the goal at any time you want. And that was it, I guess.
Very nice. All right. Thank you, sir. And last but not least,
My name's Mike, and this is my little baseball catch game. You move the left and right arrow through there, underneath the ball, and it keeps your score up top of it. It normally makes talking noise whenever you catch the ball. But yeah, that's about it.
good. Okay, I like it. Let's give everybody a hand. Give yourselves a hand. Good job. You guys did great. Just looking and exploring at the different tools. So I think that's good for you to see some of that blocky code, and remember that anytime you have trouble kind of understanding a concept, looping or decision making or something in any programming language, you could always go back to scratch and try setting up a simple scene and giving yourself some decision making or looping so that you could actually see it happening. All right, I'm going to share my screen. And in our class, we bring it up here. If you look at our modules and kind of take a peek, next week we have our Unit 1 exam. And if you notice, it's already available to you in Canvas. It's not like hiding because of prerequisites or anything like that, like some of our other weeks do. As soon as Week 3 became available, this one became available. And the reason is it has a practice exam. So you want to make sure you're taking advantage of that and looking at the practice exam. So our unit exam will be next Thursday, a week from today, and it'll be in class. So we'll do that here. Going along with the unit exam will be a hands-on part. This part is homework. So it's stuff that you'll do at home, and it'll be due the following Tuesday. So they're not due the same time. The exam is in class, hands-on, outside of class on your own. It's a Raptor flowchart, which we got to get started on or you won't know how to do it before it's time to do your exam, so we will. So the practice exam and the exam are using the exact same question bank. So anything that's on the real exam will be in that practice exam. It should be mostly multiple choice questions. I think there are a few fill in the blank, but mostly multiple choice. So shouldn't be too bad. Usually not. So to get prepared, I've seen a few people turning in the Chapter 3 review questions. Great, don't forget about those. Those are due next Tuesday night. The only other things that are due this week are these labs. So we need to get going so that you guys can get started working on them. So again, don't worry. That's why these are set the way they are, because we might end up having most of our day Tuesday on one of these labs so that you guys have time to get all this done in class. So that's kind of the plan. So the due date will be just that day when you guys are working on it in class. So we should be able to get all that done. So we are looking at flow charting. And last time we used Notepad++ to create our pseudocode for the sale price program. So I'm going to bring up that pseudocode. Now, if you remember, they showed us most of this in the textbook. They actually have a little bit different of a version in the textbook for us that we'll be referring to later. But we created this on our own kind of from the ACOG chart, right? The input process output chart that was in our textbook and in the PowerPoint. And we said, okay, we have these input variables we're going to declare that we need to use. We have output variables we need to declare. So this is basically setting aside named locations in memory for us to save information. Then we prompted our user and asked for the item name that was on sale, what the original price of that item was, and how much it was on sale for, like 20% off or whatever. Then in our processing section, we did some calculations to massage all that data and get the output that we needed, and then we output our information. So pretty straightforward, but it did a lot for us. Now, let's create this as a flowchart. And I want to use Visio first. So on your start menu, you should be able to find Microsoft Visio. Now, I don't want Visual Studio, so remember, don't look at that one. We want Visio, this one that has this blue icon that says V, and it'll be Visio 2016. Now, Visio is a drawing tool, and Visio started out just for computer programmers. It used to be owned by somebody else, and they made it where, as programmers and developers, we could use Visio to create graphical documentation, like flowcharts and other diagrams and things like that, instead of having to draw them out by hand, because drawing them out by hand was not very fun. So there are now lots and lots of different templates you can use in Visio when you first get started. Now, has everybody seen a screen like this? Does yours look this way? No. No? No? Where's yours look like? Some people's So that one is not the right one. Close it. Close it. And there it was. Okay. Sometimes it just doesn't show everybody the template when they start out. This looks good. You guys are all seeing the same thing. So we want to create a flow chart. So I'm going to click on this basic flow chart template. When I do that, then Visio even offers me a little bit further customization before I even get started. Do I want a blank one, or do I want to start with one that already has some stuff in it that's got some different color coding? Well, let's start with a blank one for our very first one, and then we'll create it from scratch. As far as the size, the units, US units is fine. Doesn't really have a huge impact on the flowchart. That would be more important if we were doing some sort of office layout or something that had measurements. Okay, so here's my flowchart. This is my piece of paper in the screen here that I'm drawing on. Let me show you this old school thing. Show it to you next time too. This is a flowcharting template. So before there was software available to draw flowcharts, programmers would take this template, which was plastic, and these holes in there were the different shapes. And so they would set this template down on a piece of paper and use a pencil or something to draw that shape. So that's why there's really specific limited shapes that we use when we're creating flowcharts. It's because it was a very limited tool, and it was very tedious, you can imagine. So whenever we start out using Visio, we have the same piece of paper. And over here on the side are all of the shapes that our template can draw. So we have several different shapes or stencils. When we're working with Visio, we could always add more shapes to our toolkit over here in this window. So if we wanted to add additional things, we could. One thing that I'd like to have is like a title up here. Well, Visio is an Office product, so I could add that. Yes, sir? Problem? Is it missing there? Okay, you got it. All right. So what could I do? I could add in a text box or something, but I could also add more shapes. Let's try it. I want to do more shapes. I'm going to say Visio Extras, and I would like some maybe title blocks. Now when I choose that, over here in the left, in my shapes window, I see now that I have additional category of shapes available. So beside the basic flowcharting shapes, I now have this title blocks area available. So let's grab a title block, anyone that you like. Some of them are really, really big. Some of them are not too bad. And I'll just take, I think I'm going to do title block small. I'm going to put it on the top of my flowchart. And if you notice, it has a lot of information. Well, that's because I could be creating some sort of engineering type diagram that might have a lot of requirements for the titling. Mine doesn't. I'm just going to try to double click in that top one and put sale price program. I don't know if this title was a very good one to pick. I hope you guys picked a better one, but it's okay. I'll double click down here in this area and try to open up another text box, and I'll put in today's date. Now, depending on what kind of title block you picked, you might not be able to do these things. So mess with it a little bit and see how it works. But normally with a flow chart or any sort of documentation like this, we're going to have a title, we're going to have a date. A lot of times we'll also have a last revised date. So on this title, I could add that in if I wanted to, is today, because it was created and revised today. Now notice with Visio how whenever I have a shape, if I double click in that shape, it opens up that text box area and I can type text into the shape. So now for me, I would probably, if I wanted to keep using this title box, I would probably have some sort of logo or something up here, maybe for my company, some other information that my company asks me to put on all of these kinds of documents. But for us, I'm not really being very particular about your flowchart. I just like it for it to have some sort of title, right? So let's get away from the title blocks and go back to our basic flowcharting shapes, because that's what we're really concerned about here. So we saw with the flowcharts that we looked at last time that the best flowchart, at least what the instructor said the best flowchart was, had a beginning and an end, right? So we always want to start with a beginning. And the beginning is this start-end symbol, or the terminator. So if you drag it out onto your flowchart piece of paper, you can just drop it anywhere. Now, just like any other sort of office component, you could resize it if you wanted it to be bigger or smaller. You could rotate it if you wanted to. But if you get it all messed up, you can undo. So don't forget Control-Z being the most important keystroke that you have in your arsenal of undo. Okay, so I would like for this to start. So I'll put that text start inside that symbol. Zoom in here a little bit. Now, once I've got my start symbol in, I'm ready to create my flowchart. My flowchart needs to have a symbol for each thing that I'm going to do in my program. So it can be kind of tedious. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 variables declared. So we need to put in 7 process boxes, 1 for each of those. Now, as I look at my flowchart here, I'm going to put those in under my start. So let's put our first one. Lots of ways we can add a shape to our flowchart. So lots and lots of ways. One way is to click over here in the shape library and just drag that item onto the flowchart. That's one. Now, if I want to get it the item off of the flowchart, I can select it and press the delete key to delete it. Now, I can also just double click. I lied. Can't double click. One thing you can do that I think is true is when you're looking at the shape above, the start shape, when you click on it and select it, it will show 4 arrows for adding additional information associated with this start button. So I want to add a process box. So I can mouse over the rectangle, the process box shape, and click, and that'll add that process box also. Notice the difference when I dragged my process shape onto the flowchart and dropped it, I didn't get the connecting arrow. When I used the quick draw features here of Visio, it automatically attached those two shapes for me with the arrow. Now, if you need to draw an arrow yourself, we will here in a second, so don't worry too much about it. But for this very first process box, I'm going to say that I'm going to declare item name as a string. You're going to see lots and lots of different flowcharts around the world. But for our very first one, we're going to try to follow all the rules and make it really, really picky about things. So I want another process box. This time I'm going to declare discount rate as an integer. And we can just keep clicking and generating new process boxes using Visio and put all of our variables on our flowchart. Discount rate, original price, and it's going to be float. Now you can see how it's super tempting right away to just put all of these in one box, right? But then that would violate the rules of programming saying that we do one thing with one shape. Is it messing with you? I don't know why you're not blue, but don't worry. When you create a new one, it will. Okay, everybody's going good, good, good. You can see how it gets kind of tedious. And so, of course, in reality, we wouldn't see a lot of flowcharts that had a separate box for each variable declaration. And in some places, we might not see a lot of flowcharts at all, just because they can be kind of tedious. Now, I'm going to keep going. I've got my original price, total price as float. Now, when I get to the end of the page here, I need to do something because I'm working on this flowchart and I've got to the end of the page. A flowchart implies kind of a printed out document. We have a special connector we can use for that, and it's called this on-page reference. So I'm going to drag it onto my flowchart, and I'm going to put it right under this last process box, and I'm going to put the letter A in it, uppercase A. So that's going to say, this flowchart continues on at point A. Now I'd like to make it auto-connect those two. So if you see, if you can get to that little arrow that's pointing that connector and just click on the arrow itself, it'll draw the line and arrow for you. And remember, we're not going to turn this one in. This is for you to practice with Visio and see what it does and kind of move and manipulate. So see how you can get it working. Now I want to copy that letter A. I could create a new one, but I'll just go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to paste it right up here beside my start box. And then I'm going to continue on from this connector. So I'm going to add another process box. And my next variable that I needed is tax. And tax was a float. Now I'm sure you guys are super obsessive about getting things lined up, since we all are. So I'm going to move that down just a little bit so it's kind of lined up with the row beside it. So I have my tax now. One more, I need sale price. And finally, our amount saved. So we finally have all our variables declared. And we see that we can use these on-page connectors. So we don't like lines, you know, and going from here to there and stuff like that. We like it to be a nice clean connection like this so that we can be absolutely sure what's going on. And remember from that super messy flow chart I showed you, we don't want lines going everywhere, causing a bunch of interference. So if we use that on-page connector, we can avoid that. Now I've got all of our variables declared. The next thing that we do in our flowchart is prompt the user for the item name. So I'm going to do that again in a process box. Or I could do something like some data. Let's use that symbol here, the data symbol. It's sort of a parallelogram. And that implies that I'm going to be getting input from my user. So when we double click on that shape, let's say we're going to input our item name . Oops, I did it wrong. We want to write out the message first, right? So we want to write out the message, enter item name. And if you notice, when I make mistakes like that, a lot of times it's because I am spacey, but no, it's actually because I want you to really notice that I can't prompt the user for input until I've written out the prompt. If I don't do it in the right order, they're not going to know what I'm asking for. So order matters. So now I want to attach that shape to the shape above. Get my arrow, click it. And again, I'm going to do the on-page connector. And I'm going to say this is going to connect to point B on my flowchart. Create it. Oops, my arrow went the wrong direction. Control Z and try that again. Make sure I am pointing in the right direction. They're so close together. It's hard to get the right one. Now again, I want to copy my on-page connector. I'm going to create another row here, and I'll go up high and create that connection to B. So now we've written out this message, enter item name. So let's read in that data. Parallelogram, because I'm communicating with the user, and I'm going to input item name. Next in our flowchart, we're going to prompt the user for our original price. And then we're going to input that original price. Now, if you notice when we're working with Visio, like a lot of the other Office products, that autocorrects, and so it's automatically capitalizing that first letter. So that might be a problem for us sometimes if we were really trying to convey code here. So for us in our class, don't worry about that. Because yeah, in our pseudocode, we might have the word declare with a lowercase d, and in our flowchart, it ends up with an uppercase. That's okay for us because we're not going to worry about case with these design documents. Causes us too much trouble. Now, next we want to prompt for and input our discount rate. So our message output was to write out discount percent. And then finally, we inputted our discount percent. Now it automatically put that word on 2 lines. So, you know, I could stretch out the size of my shape if I wanted to. I don't because it's going to make things ugly. Or I could lower the size of my font or whatever. So decide how you want to handle things like that. Okay, now this flowchart is filling up this whole page. So now we need to connect to another page. So instead of using the on-page connector, I'm going to use the off-page reference. We pull that shape over, and it says, what do you want to connect to? To a new page named page 2. Yeah, that sounds good. I like that. So I'll click OK. Now, is it actually making that into a link? It looks like it is. So that's cool. Now I've got to go back to page 1. How do I do that? I'm lost. Where'd it go? Do you see it? Here's your pages down here. Page 1, page 2. So it tries to make it nice and handy for you. Zoom in a little bit more. So we finished all of our inputs on that previous page. So now we can do our processing, right? We're ready to do our calculations. So let's get our first calculation on here. I'm going to use the process box again, and I'm going to calculate amount saved. I'm going to use this keyword set, and I did not use it in our pseudocode. Remember I told you pseudocode is not got a lot of rules and structures? Well, in our book, they do use this keyword set. So don't let it confuse you. It's never something that we'll see in the code. It's just something that we can use to make our pseudocode clearer. So I'll use it. Set amount saved to original price times discount rate divided by 100. Now notice I tried to put that in a kind of a verbal way instead of actually retyping the formula, the actual code that we have. Either way is fine. I just don't want you to be confused if you see it verbal. Sometimes people are like, oh no, a word problem. No, it's not a word problem. It's just the exact same calculation, just kind of verbalized. So let's do another one. Okay, for this one, we're going to do our sale price. So we're going to say we're going to set the sale price to the original price minus the amount saved. Our tax, set our tax equal to the sale price times 0.065. And then finally, we can set our total price equal to the sale price plus the tax. Now, as we're going through and doing this, you can say, gosh, this is just the same as the pseudocode. Are we kind of duplicating effort? We are. And the reason is we're trying to find a way to communicate best with our users to make sure that we agree on everything, that these are the right formulas. But also, every time we go through it, we're checking it again. We're desk checking again to make sure we're not missing anything. We didn't leave something out. Because every time we run through a process again, it gives us an opportunity to double check and make sure that we didn't leave anything behind. Now, the last things that we need to do are write out our messages. And I could put those down there at the bottom, but I would get kind of squished. So I'll do an on-page reference. Again, I can make this to point A because that'll be on this page. Or I could go to a whole new C since I'd used A and B for the previous page. But I'll just use A and put it again over here. And now after this, when we write things out, again, we're going to use this parallelogram. It says data. Anytime we're writing out to or reading in from our user, we want to use that data symbol. So I want to write out our first message is going to say something like the item. I'm in some sort of weird mode there. The item space plus our item name is, and then we put our discount rate and we said the end of that message should have a % sign and the word off. So we want to write something like that. The item plus the item name plus is plus the discount rate. So that might be a little technical. So depending on your user, you might have to do a little bit more to make that simpler. But we'll assume they can understand it at this point. Now the next message that we're going to write out is our sale price. So we'll write out the message, it's the original price. The original price plus original price. Then another write statement where we wrote out the sale price and then we added a little bit more. We said that the sale price results in a savings of, we were trying to do that Kohl's thing where you saved like $2,000 more than you spent. Results in a savings of amount saved. And then our very last thing was the total due. So we wrote out a message, right? Whoops, where am I? The wrong place. Now I'm just going to copy from Notepad++. Our write statement, and we will see we'll be able to do that as we move this into Python also. So that's helpful. So last thing, end this flow chart. That's the end. We want the start end symbol. And we're going to write that that's the end. Now I need to connect that with an arrow. And then I'm going to scroll back through my flow chart before I say it's done. And I'm going to make sure that I don't have any missing arrows, like missing connectors between symbols. Back to page 1. Oh, I do here at the end of page 1. Now I've shown you how you could click on this arrow to generate the arrow, which is just great. And I don't know why you would want to do it any other way, but you can. If you do need to create an arrow or a connection like this on your own, if you go to your home screen and look at your menu, find the connector tool. The connector tool then lets you click on a shape to begin a connection and another shape to end your connection. And it'll draw that arrowhead for you. So fiddle with that connector tool. It can do some things for you, but it can also do some crazy things that you didn't want to do. But after you've tried it, now why do I want these shapes connected? Well, there's a really good reason. If I move one of them, I would like, oops, why is it not letting me move? Because I still have the connector tool selected. So I'm going to get used to it. I keep walking back and forth. Sorry. So I'm going to go back to my pointer tool. And then with my pointer tool selected, I can delete that one that I accidentally created. And I can drag any of my shapes around on my flowchart. And it'll move my lines because they're all connected. So that's a good thing about Visio as a drawing tool. So we can do a lot of this stuff dynamically online, but Visio is still a very good tool and it's really highly regarded. And let's save your first Visio flowchart. Now I'm going to save this in my CIS120 folder that I use for all of my 120 stuff. And I actually have a Spring 19 folder. And I had named this sale price program, sale price pseudo, for my pseudocode. So chapter 3. So I'll name this chapter 3, sale price Visio flowchart. So now I know that I have that sale price program, pseudocode, and the Visio flowchart. And I gave it a really long name because we're going to create a Raptor flowchart to go with it too. Now before we create the Raptor flowchart, let's look at a couple of other things. I am ready to close Visio. Are you guys all ready? Is everything working? Got it all? Looks good?
No, I need one.
Okay, no problem. Let me know if you need to see something. Now, I also want to give you a couple minutes to go to your OneNote notebook. And in your OneNote notebook, if you want to create a tab about Visio, that might be helpful for you later since we won't use it a lot. It's kind of one of those tools that could fall from your memory. You don't use it often. So go ahead and make a tab in OneNote and, you know, just put some basic things in there, reminders to you, like it's Visio 2016. Because that name, we start out on the start menu with the V's thinking there's not going to be any other programs like that, and there's a bunch actually. So Visio, and choose your template, and then start drawing. I've tried to use it a couple of times for like office layouts and things like that. I always end up going back to a piece of paper because I'm not an architect, but if I were, I could handle it. And so other Trades do use Visio for some things like that. So I want to go back to the chapter 3 PowerPoint from the textbook, evil thing. We were looking at it last time, and we left off after this IPO chart. And we looked at this, and we saw how it summarized all the information for us for our sale price program. And we knew exactly what to do based on this IPO chart. We were able to write our pseudocode without any problem. But we need to change it a little bit. No mouse up here either. There it is. Why do we need to change it? Well, whenever we're writing programs, if you notice that program and you notice that flow chart, it just kept going and going and going, and it was all this code all just strung out, just going. Well, what if I wanted to have Joe work on part of this program and Sam work on another part? Because I wanted to get it done really fast. Well, if I just have this straight, stingy code, I can't really do that very well. So what I need to do is break things up into modules. There's lots of other reasons to break things up into modules too. So whenever we're looking at a program, we want to first identify the major tasks, the major things this program is going to accomplish. So each of those big major tasks then will become a program module. So we could even have modules within modules or submodules if necessary. And we can keep doing that as long as we want. And this will be a modular programming task. And we want to have these modules because we can have, first of all, one person work on one module, another person work on another module, which means they need to be communicating about how these modules are supposed to talk to each other, right? But we can also have each module be really simple. And so now instead of having all of this stuff all together, we can have each piece be very small and simple and really easy to take care of. So if there's a problem, we can fix it really easily. So a module should be pretty short. They actually say here, statements should not exceed 1 page. In your notes, add a little bit more. I've heard a lot of different rules along these lines, and just like everything else, these rules are all made to be broken, right? They're very flexible. But if I see a program module that is a whole page in length, I'm going to think that's already too long. That's already accomplishing a whole lot of work just in one module. So we're going to see people say things like 5 to 10 lines of code. If you start seeing more than that, you might be getting too much in that one module. So we always want to split that up, and I'm going to show you how as we code. But we want to start out by thinking about what the different functional purposes are of the different pieces of the program. When we get done modularizing, that program is going to be easier to read. It's going to be easier to design and code because each module is going to be simpler than the whole thing all put together. And we're going to be able to split up our workload. We can reuse some code if we want to. And modules that perform common tasks can be used in multiple programs even. So modular program coding is the way to go. So in our sale price program, this is how we would do it. In our sale price program, we're going to say we have 3 main purposes in that program. Our input part, where we're prompting for input. Our processing part, where we're doing our calculations. And then our output part, where we're outputting results to the screen. So we could split that up into 3 modules. The input module, the calculations module, and the output module. In our small program here, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference, but we can see how that would keep everything related together. So we would be able to change things a little bit to keep all of our code that does a certain logical function. Now, whenever we're working internally in the system, when we have a module or a subprogram, we have to call that module or that subprogram to make it be executed. So the way it works is we're going to have a module here that calls a submodule. That submodule will take control over the processor, and the code will begin executing in the first line of the submodule statement. When the submodule gets to its last statement, control will return to the calling module and will pick up where we left off and keep executing. So this is kind of like if you're reading a book and you find a word that you don't understand and you jump off and you look it up. Maybe you Google that word to see what it means, and then you come back and you continue reading the book. That's exactly the same. It's just going off to do a little bit of work and coming right back to pick up where we left off. We always have a main module. So we're going to start our sale price program by saying that it would have a main module where the program would begin. It has control over the whole thing. So it's our controlling module. Then that main module would call our input module, our process or calculations module, and our output module. So this chart here is a hierarchy chart. This is a place where more people miss questions in this first unit exam than any other place. This is a hierarchy chart. It doesn't show program flow, does it? It doesn't show any logic. It just shows this module calls this module. This module calls this module. This module calls this module. So it doesn't try to explain to me what happens or what any of the prompts are or what any of the calculations are. All of that detailed information is in the flow chart if I'm looking at these charts. The hierarchy chart is just showing me the relationships between the different subprograms. So just boxes. So this chart is super simple, right? If think about creating it in Visio, how much easier it would be to create than that flow chart was, because it just shows these simple things. It doesn't really show anything else. This is really important though, because again, if I have the calculations module, maybe it calls a bunch of other modules like calculate tax, calculate discount, all those things. All of the programmers are going to be able to look at this hierarchy chart and know how their module that they have to code is related to the others. So we can keep that information on a nice, simple chart. So it's kind of like an organization chart where we would have the boss up here and all of the people that report to the boss directly under him. So that hierarchy chart just shows us how we're going to split things up. So let's see, somewhere we have our couple of other things here. Whenever we get into programming, you'll see it and we'll mention it again. Syntax errors are just those rules that violate the programming language rules. Like I have a period out of place, a keyword typed wrong. Those are syntax errors. Logic errors are the kind of errors where my program doesn't work properly. So it runs, all of the periods are in the right places and the semicolons, but it doesn't give me the correct results. So that would be a logic error. So these logic errors can also be called runtime errors because we don't know they exist until we're running the program. Now there's a lot of other meaningful information in the book and in the presentation here talking about external documentation, user's guides, and some of those things that we've talked about. And we are looking at our flowchart. So here in your textbook, it's sort of towards the end of chapter 3, is a list of all of those different flowcharting symbols that we were looking at. So the decision symbol being a diamond we haven't used yet in our flowcharts, but we use the others. Okay, so here is the final pseudocode for our sale price program. And you guys don't need to type this all in, right? Because we already have the pseudocode that doesn't have these different modules, but let's look at the difference here. So first of all, they have a main module. And in their main module, they say, we're going to write out some heading information about this great program, and then we're going to call the input module. Here's our input module. It says, what is the item's name? What's its price? Gets all that information, and then ends. So these are the new keywords that they've added because of modules. They have added this module keyword, where we say, here's our input module, and then this end module keyword. Those are really important because otherwise we don't know where the module begins and where the module ends. So we can fix our pseudocode to be just like it. Let's do it, because otherwise we're just looking at this and it doesn't really mean much to you guys. So let's open our pseudocode. And this one is good because we've got everything here in our sale price program. So I could copy it, but if I copy it, then it'll be a little confusing as we go through. So instead, let's create a new file. With Notepad++, I can just click this new icon to create a new one. And I'm going to put a comment here. This will be our sale price program with modules or subprograms. Now, when we're working with different programming languages, there are different names for these modules. So when we get into Python, we'll see that Python calls these subprograms functions. Visual Basic, which isn't used a lot more anymore, calls them subroutines. C# and Java call them methods. Sometimes people will call them functions and subroutines, though. So we can hear a lot of different names for these subprograms. We always hate that because that means that it's a little bit more confusing. But they just make it to where you have to be super smart. You guys all are, so I'm not worried about that. So our date here. So we're going to collect some pricing information and calculate the sale price. Now, because we are saying that this is going to be a modularized program, we're going to start out with our main module. Now, after I type that main module heading, I'm going to indent, because I want everything that is part of that main module to be indented underneath it so that someone looking at this can tell that these lines of code are part of that main module. Now in this main module, we're going to declare our item name, and we decided it should be a string. And then we had a bunch of other variables, and this time we're going to declare them all together on one line. We had our discount rate, our sale price, our total price, as float. And we're leaving a little bit out, but don't worry because we're going to catch those later. Now in our main module, then we're going to write out a nice opening message. This is the sale price program. And this program computes the total price, including tax, of an item that has then discounted, I'm reading this right out of the book, a certain percentage. Now, whenever we have messages like this, sometimes they can be a little long and tedious, but remember, if they come from some sort of design document, they've had a lot of people look at them and they've decided this is what they want it to say. So we have to be aware that sometimes those things aren't things that we can change. Sometimes they are. Bless you. Now, after we write those things out, we want to call our input module. And that module is going to get data. Then we're going to call our calculations module. And then finally, we're going to call our output module. And you'll see I'll try to do it just a little bit different than the textbook so that you can see some differences and get an idea for you of what's really important. Now, because our main module is the controlling module, that's going to be the end of our program. Now, we need to define what all those other modules are going to be. So our input module will be first. And again, I want to indent everything in this module so that anyone looking at it knows that that's where it belongs. Now, we want to write out that message. What is the item name? And we'll input that item name. And then in their example, they actually write out and prompt for two things at once. What is its price and the percentage discounted? And they read them in first, the original price, and next, the discount rate.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there supposed to be a space after the question mark on the online 22?
I put when because otherwise whatever they type will be squished right up against it. Now I'm looking too at some of our code and I don't see our original price declared anywhere. Do you? Is that missing? Seems like it, doesn't it? Let's add it. And we want it to be a float, so we can add it to that group. And I'm using Notepad++ there because it didn't pop up with that match. And I was like, it's like it doesn't know about it. So that should be the end of our input module. Press enter a little bit. Next, we want our calculations module. Now, in our calculations module, we're doing the same calculations that we were before. One difference, though, they want us to declare our amount saved within this module. Whenever we did our pseudocode, we put it up at the top with all of our other variables, and we added it to our output. If we declare a variable like this within the module, that variable is only going to be available within this module, so we won't be able to use it as something that we output. So that's okay, we just have to keep that in consideration that we won't be able to do that exactly the same way. Now, we've declared our amount saved to use just within this module. And I'm going to use these set keywords that they like so much. we'll set amount saved equal to our original price times our discount rate divided by 100. We'll set our sale price equal to our original price minus our amount saved. Set our tax equal to our sale price times 0.065. And lastly, we'll set our total price equal to our sale price plus the tax. And that will be the end of our calculations module. So we have a lot of the same information, just putting it into a specific logical connection with all of the other pieces of code that belong together. So now let's do our output module. This one, all of our code will be indented, and we'll be doing all of our write statements to output things. They want us to say the item is space plus the item name. The pre-sale price was the original price. Our percentage discounted was discount rate plus a percent sign. Then our sale price plus our sale price plus our sales tax plus tax. And lastly, our very last one, our total, they put a $sign in that string and then print out the total price right up against it so that it'll look like it's got a nice currency formatting. And that's the end of our output module. When we're working with smaller programs like this, it can be kind of hard to see the benefit of using the subprograms, because it does add a little bit of confusion and a little bit of overhead, right? Because now we have all of these module statements and module statements, and we have these call statements, a little bit more confusing. But if you notice now, the code is much cleaner basically about where things are. All of the pieces are with the other parts that work with them, which is the way we had it before, but now it's much more segregated and we can make sure that everything happens where it needs to. Now, if we needed to prompt for input for another variable, we would really easily be able to add that to our input module. And if we needed to change the output, we could change our output module real easily. So let's save that. Where?
Go back down.
Sure. Excuse me. Okay, so looks good. Now we've got everything kind of set the way we want it for that pseudocode. So what are these ones that do what? Sure. They're getting all set. And don't forget, we'll have the video from Zoom out if you need to look at it at home, so you can always look at it. Now, for our assignments for these lab activities, the first one is Programming Challenge 2, Supermarket Product Price. Now, we're going to split up into partners before we start this, but before we do that, let's take a look at our requirements. First of all, I want you to have time in class to complete it. Some of you, if you feel like you're moving very slow, might need to use some outside of class time, but in general, you should have enough time in class. We're going to be looking at Programming Challenge 2 in Chapter 3. Show you where that is, about supermarket. Today, you're going to start getting to know your partner kind of and thinking about how you're going to handle this. But the first thing you want to do is create pseudocode to solve this problem. So that'll be your focus today, pseudocode. Then after we've done pseudocode, we'll come back and create a Raptor flowchart. I haven't shown you how to do that yet. We'll do that Tuesday and see how we need to adjust our due dates depending on that. So we'll take a look at it and get these Raptor flowcharts going. So for this one, each of you will turn in a pseudocode text file and a Raptor flowchart file. Today, we're just working on pseudocode. So what's the assignment in the book, Programming Challenge 2? Well, if you look at the end of the text chapter, there's chapter review and exercises. And at the very end of those are the programming challenges. So we want this number 2. The manager of the supermarket would like to be able to compute the unit price for products sold there. To do this, the program should input the name and the price of an item per pound and its weight in pounds and ounces. Then it should determine and display the unit price, which is the price per ounce of that item, and the total cost of the amount purchased. They tell you you're going to need these variables. You're going to need these formulas. Now, over the years, I've had a lot of discussion about these formulas and whether they're accurate or not. Right now is not your time to analyze the correctness of the math. Right now is your time to go forth and program it. So if it's not accurate, that's all right. Keep using it because those are the formulas you were given. You could bring that up in a design meeting. But so it seems to come out right, but sometimes there's a lot of discussion about it. So that's your assignment. And for today, I'm going to split you up into your groups. And then we're going to try to work on the pseudocode part of it. So that's all you're going to focus on today. Don't have much time. So let's see if we even have time to split up into groups. What I would like you to do is come to the middle here. And I would like you to line up by your birthday. So all of the people born in January should be up here in the front. And the people born in December should be back in the back. So let's come sort yourself. Brittany, you probably want to not get a partner since you're going to be gone Tuesday. And then we'll see how it goes. If you're able, I think you'll probably be able to do it. But if you want a partner, we'll figure something out.
March, January, February, May.
Do you have a budget, spring baby? Where is he? Where are you? February? Oh, okay. So get yourself in there. Get in a line. Get in a line. Get in a line. Is he in there? Can you fit? You guys, they can't come forward too much. We're getting there. We can fit. Luckily, we had some people absent. We didn't be too crowded. Let's see how many we've got now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I count 16 people. Is that what you guys count? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the back half, come forward and introduce yourself to your partner. So
numbers we are. When's Miss Bay?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you count.
1, 2,
That better? Okay, I'm on our number one, and you guys just follow him. You've got this under control. We just have partners. You can handle it.
Yeah.
Do you know who your partner is? Now I have people getting out of order here. Guess they've got it all figured out. Good. Okay, find your partner. Grab stuff or grab a place. Decide where you're going to work. You're working today on creating pseudocode. We have about 10 minutes. Some of you could probably get it almost all done in that amount of time. Some of you will just be introducing yourselves to each other. That's fine either way. You got your partner? Everybody figured out? I have to give you guys more specific instructions in the future. So before you get started, let me interrupt you. Tuesday, we will look at doing Raptor flowcharts, and then the rest of our time will be time for you guys to work together. So it'll take us probably 15 or 20 minutes to review together. Rest of the time will be for you guys to work on these projects. Okay? So get started on your flowchart today. Or I mean pseudocode. I said the wrong word.
You said we both need to have an individual.
Yes. Yeah.